From the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, it's just the Tip-Sters with Melissa Morgan.
Be kind.
Remember, if you got a tip for Melissa, footprints in the mud, handprints on the window, the secret ingredient that makes anyone actually want to eat a Stuckey's pecan log. Anything, tell us about it by calling the Tipster hotline at 832-TIPSTER. That's 832-847-7837, or send an email to jttipsters@gmail.com. And now here's your host. Her first vaccine shot went great. As long as your definition of great isn't the one that's in the dictionary. Melissa Morgan!
More cowbell. Well, before we get to my vaccine nightmare, which will be coming up soon on the ID Network. Yes.
That would be a great title. A series of...
Well, it's better than the fucking titles of most of the shows on there. Sinister Ministers.
That's funny.
Wives
My
with
vaccine nightmare. They have a whole year's worth of people that they could interview. It's like, wow.
Yeah, I'll be explaining that in a moment. But I did want to say thank you for the trip down memory lane, producer Mark.
Yes.
Stuckey's.
Stuckey's.
The Stuckey's nutlog. The only time I've ever been to a Stuckey's was on 2 different school trips.
Oh,
I
really?
didn't realize you went there for any other reason.
Oh my God! They were Stuckey's, and they still are. I actually
are they still around?
Oh yeah,
oh,
they've
wow.
got like 117 or something. Here's how I know this.
Oh my
I
God.
flashed when I was writing the intro. I flashed on this whole, the Stuckey's pecan log.
Of course you did.
Which are just the weirdest things. The weirdest. Anyway, and yes, they were. I've traveled all over the country many times.
Yes, you have.
And they are everywhere. And
yes, I guess they are.
So I flashed on. I go, I'm going to go see if they're still around. And
I am so happy to know.
They have a website. And
oh my God, they have a website.
They were founded.
I'm going to pass out.
They were founded in 1937 by Mr. Stuckey.
Of course they
They
were.
grew to like over 1,000 stores all over the country.
Holy shit!
And then in 1977, I think they said it was that a private company bought it and then just kind of destroyed it.
Oh, great.
And then the son or grandson of Mr. Stuckey bought the company back, and now it's family owned again. And now they're up to like 100 and some odd. Roadside, Stuckey's across America again. So,
well, that is a beautiful story.
It's kind of and by the way, you may notice on the American Express bill that I bought a coffee mug and a baseball cap.
Oh, for God's sake! Okay,
with Stuckey's stuff.
Yeah, I'll
on
look
it.
at the bill.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
since you are much more well traveled than me. Is a Stuckey's like a place you stop when you're traveling to go to the bathroom and buy food and snacks and shit?
Yes.
What is a Stuckey's? I don't really know.
Yes, that's exactly what they are. And buy tchotchkes. They have.
That's it. Okay.
They're famous for their tchotchkes.
Okay, that's what I thought. That Stuckey's was like the low rent version of Cracker Barrel, which is more frightening than I can imagine.
Oh, way more lowbrow than
Cracker Barrel is like a restaurant. Stuckey's, is it like they don't have food, do they? Other than like snacky food.
They a lot. Most of them had like a franchise, like a McDonald's or something.
Oh, no
inside.
kidding.
Some of them actually had their own kitchen.
Oh shit! Okay,
it sold hamburgers and stuff.
Yeah, my only recollection of Stuckey's, 2 different class trips. So it would have been the 70s and early 80s, because I remember being a teenager. I wasn't like a kid. So because it was enough to laugh at. I do remember the pecan logs, and I also remember it was one of. As soon as you said tchotchkes, it flooded back. It was one of the only places that had either like a keychain or something with my name on it.
Oh,
because,
that's funny.
Yeah, because Melissa was not like a real common name, I guess, in the 70s and 80s. It was like I think, older name, like in the 50s and 60s, and then like it may have had a resurgence at some point, but I don't know that many Melissas.
Right.
I feel like it was an older name. So I always had trouble, going with my friends, like to the mall or something, and all those pre-printed things with your name on it. It's not like my name is like, The Wind Calls Me Mariah, spelled with 3 H's, but it was, it's not like the interesting weird names parents come up with their kids now, and you're like, you're never gonna find something for your kid that's already pre-printed. You're going to have to buy a Cricut and print your own fucking shit. But yeah, I remember the Stuckey's had like a keychain with my name spelled, and I bought it with my little bit of allowance money or whatever.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get straight into some bullshit here. When I said be kind, that is going to be a through line in this episode. I'm going to start with the apologies first, which I owe Tipster Kim some swag. Tipster Kim lives in Texas. And there's probably someone else I owe some things to, but I will be honest, it was sort of like the week that time forgot. I was pretty much down for the count a large part of the week and put me a little bit, not a little bit, put me a lot behind. It's not like I operate like a well-oiled machine, but I do have tasks, things I like to get done in a timely fashion. And when I say I'm going to send you some Just the Tipster swag, I mean it. And I typically am pretty fast on delivery.
Let me just say, as Mr. Podcast here, Ms. Podcast is obsessive about that.
She is. I am. I'm speaking of myself in third person. I am. I want to get it out quickly, and because producer Mark is the postmaster of this operation here. He operates the stamps.com account. So when I hand him box after box with, people's name, and I'm like, all right, this needs to go out like now. Like sometimes he'll say, can this wait till tomorrow? And I'm like, no. And then I'll
pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. I'll run in my car to make sure it gets, out on that day.
And we do use stamps.com, by the way. If stamps.com would like to use us as, would like to be a sponsor on the show.
We are not sponsored.
We have nothing but good things to say about you, but just,
yeah.
Send us a card.
Yeah, we're not sponsored by them, but yes, we use them to send out the voluminous amount of swag that I like to send out because it makes me happy when our sweet tipsters email us or contact us or send reviews or do something kind. We want to be kind back, and they are always so grateful. So what put me behind was my first dose of the Pfizer vaccine, which, I just want to say a couple of things. I am not an anti-vaxxer. I am grateful for Western meds. I am delighted to live in an era where we have antibiotics. Our great-grandparents could have died from infections. People died from the 1920 flu virus, and many, 100,000 or 500,000 people have passed from this, 2020, 2021 pandemic. I also feel like there is no one size fits all blanket. And if you, feel like you're going to be compromised in some way by a vaccine, hopefully you don't think it's because the government is putting trackers in you or whatever. That's up to you. I just feel like everyone should make their own decision. And I had made my decision I wasn't going to do it. And not because I don't believe in it, but because I'm a weirdo. And I mean, obviously I'm a weirdo, but I have a weird body, and things don't assimilate correctly in my body. I've said this before, and I don't want to belabor the point, but my endocrinologist calls me an alien because my thyroid meds are constantly on the move because my body is weird. I can't take the generic form of Synthroid, levothyroxine, which is markedly cheaper because my body does not assimilate it. I have to take Synthroid, and it's not because I'm a snob. I don't want to spend $30-$40 more, it's
your body's the snob.
My body's a snob,
not you.
Yeah, my body's a snob. I have mentioned numerous times my alien heritage, that I blow out a lot of digital devices, which producer Mark has had an ass full lately. He got me a new computer, and within 3 days it said it had no operating system. So that was an HP. It wasn't like Bob's fly-by-night computer. So we had to take that one back. And anyway, went to my GP to discuss getting the vaccine, which I had an appointment for that afternoon, Monday afternoon. And they, we're still in a pandemic, right? They take my temperature outside the building, and she takes it 3 times, and she goes, yeah, it won't register. And I'm like, well, what's it saying? She's like, it says low. I'm like, oh, well, you probably need batteries. She goes, no, it's got new batteries in it. I'm just going to put 96.7. And I go, well, that's fine. I don't care. Put whatever you want. I go upstairs, and then they take my temperature again in the doctor's office, and a different thermal temperature reader, and they're like, yeah, it won't register. And I'm like, really? What does it say? It just says low. Okay. Digital and I don't get along. I just want you to know when you take my blood pressure, I'm going to need you to use a manual cuff, because a digital cuff will give you readings like 237/35 and 60/40, neither of which is viable, and it doesn't make any sense. And they're like, oh, okay. So the sweet young girl, goes and gets a manual cuff and a stethoscope the old-fashioned way. She's like, oh, it's 130/80. And I go, oh, it's a little high. And she goes, well, I imagine you're stressed by now. And I'm like, yes, I am.
And if just so you know, because I know a lot of listeners are going to want to send in suggestions, okay, and about what the issue is here, folks. We've had everything looked at, okay. That there is something. I think that maybe there's a reason Melissa's picture is up in the main lab at Area 51. Okay, I think that maybe Mulder and Scully need to investigate this, because there is something going on here.
It took you a while to come to that, didn't it?
It did, but there's no other explanation.
Right.
When everything else in the house is working, and then she puts an electronic device anywhere near her, and it goes psychedelic. Yeah,
that's actually a perfect word for it. I tried 3 different Fitbits. I do have to give a shout out, and they're not a sponsor either, to Apple. My Apple Watch is almost 2 years old, and it has never fucked up. It has been great. I have, however, had issues with iPhones, iPads, computers, and my favorite story is Fitbit. I, several years ago, purchased the $100 model Fitbit from Sam's Club. And it lasted 3 or 4 months, and then it just crapped out. So I was like, you know what, Melissa, stop being a cheapskate, level up. So I paid like $150 for the next level up. That lasted about 6 months, and it crapped out. And I'm like, all right, Melissa, do yourself a favor, get a good Fitbit. So I paid about $200, I think, for another Fitbit. And within 6 months, the screen was static. It looked like an old-fashioned TV from the 60s after, it had gone off the air, and that picture of the Indian in the, you know what I mean?
Right after the national anthem.
Yes. It was like my Fitbit had gone off the air. I thought it was a battery issue. That's
what happens when you put a new electronic device on your body. You start hearing the national anthem. Da, 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 da,
and then it goes off the air.
It
just goes off the air. So, yeah, I sent it to Fitbit, and they said, we have never seen anything like this. We'll refund your money. And I was like, okay, all right. Fitbit's never seen static. So that's, okay. So I didn't want this fucking vaccine. I didn't want it. I am grateful for the millions of people that do want it. And I have not been sick. I have been tested. Don't have the antibodies. I have dodged a bullet so far, but thought after a while, after saying no, I thought, you know what? I want to see my friends. I want to travel again, and I am afraid I will not be able to travel. It's sad. It's a sad thing. But so I signed up and got the first one, complaining to my GP Monday morning, this is going to be terrible. I'm going to be sick. It's awful. I hate it. It's stupid. Just, and she's just like listening to me with her hair blown back. And she's like, okay, well then don't get it. And I'm like, it's not that simple. And I know producer Mark said the same thing. Don't get it. I think you're one of the people that shouldn't get it. In fact, I guess I'd complained so much on a visit to one of producer Mark's doctors that he said, I think you're one of the people that shouldn't get it. And I thought, yeah, that's just because I've told you it's fucking stupid and I hate you and everyone else in the medical field right now. But
no, he meant you shouldn't take it. But
yeah, I know.
Just saying.
I know. So I go on Monday. Producer Mark goes with me, which I am grateful. I was like, this is nothing. This is okay. All right. I waited the requisite 15 minutes. She did a great job. I asked the medical tech, do you have a stuffed animal I could hold on to and squeeze really hard? And she goes, you won't need it. I'm good. And she was right. She was good. It was over. It didn't hurt. It was great. I came home Monday night and I'm like, all right, look, all my limbs are still attached. Everything's good. Everything's fine. Tuesday morning, I was praying for the sweet release of death. My arm hurt so bad. overnight Monday, I could not lift my left arm. And then the fun began. I was hot and yet freezing cold and shaking and couldn't wear enough clothing. I was tired. Everyone says they have, not everyone, I apologize. Some people say they have one of the symptoms is fatigue. And then began the nausea and the diarrhea. And it was bad. And I was a monster. Poor producer Mark was like, can I help you with anything? And I'm like, please get away from me and never talk to me again. I will just put a blanket statement out there. Tip-Sters, I am a horrible patient. I am the worst patient. I get extraordinarily angry when I'm sick. So I try really hard not to get sick. So I knew this was going to be a problem simply because I thought it might be a problem. Let me put it this way. I thought it might be a problem and prayed that it would not be, but it was. 13 years ago, I had my first and only flu vaccine, and I was sick for a year. I was sick 4 times in 11 months to the tune of, not like I don't feel good, to the tune of I now must go to urgent care one more time. And I don't go to urgent care. The last time I was at urgent care, I had stepped on a nail and pulled the flip-flop out of my foot like I was Jesus or something and bled like a stuck pig and knew I couldn't take care of it myself. Producer Mark was on a business trip. So I drove myself wrapped in a towel to urgent care. And the hilarious ER doc was like, I call him Jerry Garcia because he had like long hair and a bunch of bracelets on and stuff. And he goes, yeah, man, next time you step on a nail, do it barefoot. Shoes are filthy. And I'm like, okay, thank you. That's your advice, doctor. But I did not do well. I did not do well with the flu vaccine. I mean, I did really badly. So producer Mark has had a flu vaccine for 23 years, once a year, and had zero problem. He had his both Pfizer shots a month, 6 weeks ago. His left arm was sore one time.
It was sore for 2 hours. The day after, a little sore, and stiff on the upper part of the arm, for 2 hours the day after the second shot.
After the second one. So yeah, everyone's saying the second one's usually the one that gets them, and I was leveled by number one. So I'm very excited about my second shot. Let me just say that. So here's what I'm going to say when I say be kind. Please be honest. I'm trying not to be angry at the people who think they're doing such a wonderful thing by putting pictures of their, Band-Aid covered arms on social media, like you've, conquered, I don't know, Russian hackers, or you've landed on the moon. You got a fucking shot. And if it makes you sick, tell people so that they know what to expect. Not everyone has gotten the shot yet. And I feel like as much as I thought this was going to be difficult, I didn't even know. I had no idea. But you know what happened after I put a poor, pitiful me message on Facebook? Like, I did this so that I could see my friends. And now I don't give a shit if I ever see my friends again because I was so sick. And obviously that has changed. But I was so sick. People started messaging me privately and said, this is what happened to me. This is exactly what happened to me. This is exactly what happened to you. And I was like, oh, so I didn't feel alone. I shouldn't have felt alone. I know lots of people, have issues with things, and lots of people don't, especially something as unknown as this vaccine. So I am not in any way, shape, or form saying don't get it. I'm saying if you feel like you need it, if you want to be protected, if you feel like you need to be protected yourself or protect others, get it. I am not an anti-vaxxer, but what I am is an anti-truther. Don't fake.
You're an anti-truther.
Right. I'm not a lying truther. I'm an anti-truther. Please tell the truth. If you don't just put a picture of your Band-Aid arm and be like, look what I did. Look at me. Say, I did this and it hurts like shit and I'm puking my guts out and I'm shitting my pants and I'm praying for the sweet release of death and it'll be over in a couple days and here we are. The people that are telling me they're sick are the ones that have a special place in my soul, in my heart. Not because they're sick, but because they're telling me the truth. So anyway, I'm off my soapbox now. So I want to say thank you to, I'm going to call her Gunny Bear because it's spelled the way that those dresses in the 80s, gunny sacks. It's Gunne, Gunny Bear. And she left a beautiful review on Apple Pod. I'm saying she, like I know. This sweet Gunny Bear left a lovely review on Apple Podcasts, and we are really grateful. We got so many great emails. Tipster Christina with a K. We will absolutely talk about the case that you submitted. It's not a traditional case, but it's definitely an important one. You'll be hearing some cases coming up from Prescott Valley, Arizona, from San Antonio, Texas, a cold case from Kentucky, which I wanted to say a special shout out to Trooper Elliott, who apologized for taking some time to get back with me. But he just is celebrating the birth of his son. So, congratulations on being a new dad. So it's nice when someone who obviously is very busy takes the time to email me back, because I was like, I haven't heard from you. And, he finally was like, I am so sorry. I'm like, you know what? Having a baby, pretty good excuse for not emailing me back right away. So he's working on that. So we do have we have quite a few cases in the pipeline we'll be getting to in the near future. Christina with the C, who lost her grandma, who was like a mother to her, sent us the sweetest email, and she said something that was so important I wanted to address. She said that our podcast helped shut down the voices in her head and give her breathing room to grieve. And I would love to take some credit for that. But Christina, you honored your grandmother in every word you wrote in that email to us. It is a beautiful email. And she is healing her own heart and doing it beautifully. I would love to take credit, but our podcast, is here for you, absolutely. But you're doing the work, and you're healing your own heart, and you are honoring your grandmother in everything you do, And Tipster Christina said that she considered us friends of hers, which is really beautiful because, we can't have enough friends in our life, right? And she has been a friend to us. She wrote a review almost 2 years ago and then sent me an email saying, I'm shocked there's not more reviews. And then said, not her, but other people have said recently, if you have a contest, you should ask that people, submit a review, put it on their own social media and tag you and come up with a unique hashtag for the show. And those are all great marketing ideas. I am really horrible at marketing, and I wish I were better.
Well, now that I know about, you didn't tell me about that idea. That's a great idea.
Those are great ideas, but I feel like it's a little bit just south of buying reviews. And I never want to do that, because I'll tell you, I know some podcasts in our situation that have paid for bot reviews, and I can't do that.
We won't ever do that.
No. Every review that we've ever gotten is authentic and by a human being. And whether I like them or not, I may not agree with them, but they're all reviews that are real and have not been generated. So, I'll consider something that's more interactive for the next contest. But for now, my beautiful tipsters, you have until midnight, Tuesday, April 20th, which should be right around the time this episode comes out, to comment, let us know you want the prize on any of our social media platforms, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, any place you can find, you can email us and let us know, that you want the prize package. And the prize package is these amazing crime scene masks made by Tipster Sandy that are phenomenal. They have, soft ear loops that have the little bead so you can tighten or loosen them. They're accordion style, so they fit any face. It's hilarious that it's got crime scene tape across your mouth. They come with 3 replaceable filters, the PM25 filters. They are washable. They have metal over the nose so you can bend it to fit your nose. I mean, there's just not enough I can say about the magic of them. And you also get a You Are Made of Rainbows gift set from Bath & Body Works that's got body spray, body moisturizer, and hand sanitizer, and the scent Warm Vanilla Sugar, which is my favorite. And I sent 4 crime scene masks to my 4 favorite detectives. And Detective Joe, 2 in California, 1 in Cincinnati, 1 in Kentucky. And Detective Joe texted me and said, my crime scene mask is the talk of the water cooler. He said everyone said how cool and neato it was. And they said, oh, you have a secret admirer. And he said, I told them you have no idea. And I said, oh, no. I'm not secret about my love and adoration for you. There's no secret. So yeah, I'm so glad that the detectives are enjoying the crime scene masks. One detective said he was going to wear it into court, and that made me extremely happy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, extremely happy. So here is an example of being kind. I sometimes think God or the universe protects me from the slings and arrows of the general public. I got 2 emails overnight, and one was remarkably awful. And I saw when he sent it, and he sent it at 3:24 a.m. And he is on the West Coast, so I'm thinking he might, be up late at night sending emails to people and telling them how terrible they are. He accused me of everything from victim shaming to taking credit to solving cases and not involving. I don't know what he's. At first, I felt like my stomach dropped because I thought, oh my God, someone really thinks this of me. And then the more I read, I was like, oh, I don't think this is even really about me. I think this is about him. He's this, with a lot of the things in our lives that we think are about other people, they're about us. And this is definitely about him. He has some issues I hope he works through. And all I'm going to say is that I wish you peace, sir, because you don't seem to understand what podcasts are and what we're trying to do. And I hope that whatever is making you so unhappy and miserable in your life, I hope that leaves you and that you find some peace of mind, because you have some problems. And then I get this other email from Tipster Deborah, who just makes and it was almost, I would put the 2 emails up, but I don't want to give him any more time in my brain. She almost counteracted everything he said word for word. All the things he accused me of, she, rights the wrong. So
it was almost like the universe was saying, okay, that happened, but here's the real deal.
Yeah, I'm going to say, the Lord taketh away, and then the Lord giveth back, because the Lord, sent me an email, not the Lord, but this man sent me an email that was like, it could have knocked me down, but it didn't. And then when I get this email from Tipster Deborah, who, by the way, is our newest patron on Patreon at the highest level, she just came right in like a beautiful storm. And she is at the unicorn level. She is a true unicorn too. And her email to me said, when I said, oh my gosh, nobody comes in at, the top tier unless they're family. And I'm an only child, and, my parents are gone, so I don't really have a lot of family. But she said, I normally don't do that either, but I'm simply overwhelmed with how wonderful your podcast is. You show such true caring for tipsters, victims, and their families. You give credit to law enforcement and civilians who work hard to find the truth. But you're also not afraid to put blame where it belongs. Of course, your episodes present cases clearly and in a way that makes them fresh, even though they've been covered 100 times. You don't overuse interviews, and you don't cover serial killers ad nauseum. Your episode on how animal abuse is a very real predictor of future abuse and serial killing should be sent to every mayor, governor, representative, and senator. Until we come down hard on animal abuse, it won't stop. And if it is made a federal offense, the abusers can be tracked and watched for future issues. So brilliant. Finally, the repartee between you and producer Mark is so good. Not giggly like so many are, nor is it so jumbled that it makes no sense. There's just the right amount of it. And that little soupçon of humor is so needed for these dark and sad subjects. I see you as Karma driving her bus in stilettos. Which, by the way, Karma in stilettos is my new stripper name. And
now I'm kind of turned on.
Yeah, because you're weird. And she said, "Thank you for giving me such a wonderful podcast," and sent 2 pictures of her beautiful dogs, Annie and Remy. And Annie is wearing bunny ears that are in the shape of carrots, and Remy is dressed as Sherlock Holmes. It just couldn't have been a more perfect email after being accused of just crazy stuff. So this one was more wanted and needed than I can ever tell you, Tipster Deborah. And thank you, or Debbie, I guess. Thank you for being a patron too. I mean, there are some things that are priceless, and that is definitely an email that is priceless. So getting to finally the case this week. It is a double case that wasn't really known until a detective came up with a really good plan and was able to sort of close the books on the second one, although it is still an open case because they have not found her remains, but you'll see what I'm saying. And it's in Georgia, and there are some really great places to find information. The Savannah Morning News, the Coastal Courier did a great job of covering it. Fox 28 Media and WTOC 11. But one of the places that was so wonderful to stumble upon was a blog from a young girl named Kylie. And she does it right. It's called It's Crime O'Clock Somewhere. And what she did that I thought was so beautiful, a lot of times we get wrapped up in the name of the perpetrator. We find the cases when we're doing research because of the perpetrator's name. Their name has been in the press. And sometimes the victim or victims in this instance get pushed further down in the story and their story gets lost. And something that Kylie does on her blog is titles her blog entries with the name of the victim. And this is something that stuck out to me and made me a little bit embarrassed and helped me learn something about myself. She titled one, The Murder of Adia Blanchard. And I had to sit and think for a minute, and I was like, oh, that's Gypsy Blanchard's mother. I have never seen anyone cover it as the murder of Adia Blanchard. Now, granted, Adia Blanchard, no matter what you think, had mental illness and quite possibly Munchausen by proxy. She made, not quite possibly, she had Munchausen by proxy. She made Gypsy sick or pretend to be sick or a lot of different things, I guess, to get help and sympathy and it worked until it didn't, and until Gypsy found a boyfriend and wanted out from underneath the lie of her life and killed her mother. She and her boyfriend, actually. And I had never seen anyone label it the murder of Adia Blanchard. It's always the Gypsy Blanchard story. I thought that was exceptional, and I think she does a wonderful job on her blog. So it's Crime O'Clock Somewhere, if you ever want to take a gander at that.
Which is a great name for a blog.
I think it's amazing. She's a young girl, and I think she does a great job. I really, there's also a true crime writer named Kat Lee, Leigh, who I'm madly in love with. So this case is from December of 2007 in Liberty County, Georgia. Actually, I believe it kind of crosses over into Long County also. So Gail Moody is a 42-year-old recent divorcee who lives in a trailer sort of out in the middle of nowhere because she wants some peace and quiet to, be away from everyone, but still close enough that she can reach family and friends. And she works in the administrative part of CNS Construction. So Gail, whose name, by the way, is Deborah Gail Moody, but she goes by Gail. So Gail lives in Ludowici, Georgia. And on December 4th of 2007, that's the last time anyone remembers seeing her. So she leaves her job at CNS Construction. She meets with a friend who helps her pick up a large dog pen at a feed store at Anderson's Feed and Seed. And her friend helps her take it to her mobile home at the end of Smiley Road, right off of Highway 196. And they unload the dog pen, and her friend leaves sometime in the early evening between 5:30 and 6. Now, she's never heard from again. Now, here's the part that's a little weird. She was in touch with family very closely. Her mom, her stepfather, her son, they lived in Florida at the time, and she was pretty much in contact with her mom quite often. Now, I don't know why it takes until December 10th, which is 6 days later, and there are multiple reports. One says that her uncle reported her missing on December 10th, and other reports say her mother reported her missing on December 10th. But either way, it takes 6 days to report her missing. So they do a welfare check on her home, and there's really nothing that appears out of place. Her purse is inside the residence, and her car is parked undisturbed outside. Her dogs are in the front yard. It says there's no indication of foul play, and they do an extensive search of this, local area that's wooded, very wooded. So they look for her, and she is just another person who's missing in December of 2007. So now we're going to jump a little bit ahead to September of 2010. So an Army soldier's wife, Lori Arrowwood, is reported missing from her home in Georgia when her 17-year-old daughter comes home from work and says, my mom's phone and purse are gone, and my mom is gone. And they spend 4 days looking for her. Her husband, Sergeant Nathan Arrowwood, is in Iraq with the 4th Infantry Brigade when she's reported missing, and the Army brought him back home as quickly as possible to look for her. And they have friends, family members, the Army, all of the people from the local Army post are looking for her around this tiny rural community. It's called Gum Branch. So they are looking for her, and one of the people looking for her is Kenneth Lumpkin. He's a corrections officer for the Liberty County Sheriff's Department. He is also someone who has side jobs as a handyman. And after 4 days, something Kenneth Lumpkin says helps them find Lori's body. And they find her, and they arrest him immediately. And
Whoa, what did he say?
Well, I don't know. And you would think because it's been adjudicated and he was given life without parole, you'll see what happens next. But you would think they would release what he said. But he's out there, with her friends and family, these soldiers, the police, looking for her. And they discover her body in some woods along a rural highway. And her husband hadn't even gotten home yet from Iraq when her body is found. So they know it's not her husband. And they know it's not her daughter. And something that Kenneth Lumpkin said points them to him. They arrest him, and he confesses immediately. Now, what he says happened, because he kind of just says, oh yeah, we're just acquaintances. Just acquaintances. Okay. Now, unfortunately for Gail Moody and Lori Arrowwood, they both know a woman named Shelley. And when you look at Gail Moody and Lori Arrowwood, they could be sisters. They're both beautiful. They're both 42. They look like different versions of Gloria Steinem. They have long, straight, brunette hair that's kind of full and fluffy, and they wear glasses, and they have big, gorgeous smiles. They really could be sisters. They knew each other. They were friends. They rode horses together. And the unfortunate thing for the both of these two women is that they knew Shelley. And Shelley is married to a man named Kenneth Lumpkin.
Oh.
Right. So, we know Kenneth killed Lori Arrowwood. His reasoning was that he went to visit Lori and said, hey, can you help me with an idea for a Christmas present for Shelley? He says, here's the odd part. Here's the really odd part. He says in his confession that he attempted to rape her, but couldn't perform. So he threw her into the woods. He strangled her and threw her into the woods.
Oh my God.
And she's found 4 days later. Now, there, are theories that both Lori Arrowwood and Gail Moody had hired Ken Lumpkin to do handyman work, and that's how they knew him, because he was the husband of their friend Shelley. And he was a corrections officer. Who do you trust? Do you trust the people that work in law enforcement who strangle you and murder you? Yeah. So the entire time from 2010 until 2019, they are interviewing Ken Lumpkin. He's given, life without parole. They are interviewing...
Just for the one murder. Right?
Just for the one murder. They are leaning on him. They are interviewing him. People are saying, look, we think it's Ken Lumpkin. And they're like, we can't make a connection. There's, Gail Moody. And by the way, Gail's body still hasn't been found. Gail's still, missing, quote unquote missing. There was a coworker of Gail's from CNS Construction named Gerald Brancham, and she had given him a ride home from work on December 4th before meeting with her friend to pick up the dog pen at Anderson's Feed and Seed. And Gerald went to work the next day, and Gail did not. So they, are questioning him or trying to question him, and he's not answering. They finally have to set up kind of a sting with his employer and say, can you tell him he has to come and pick up his paycheck, that you can't, send it to him or whatever. So they show up at the same time, and Gerald Brancham picks up his paycheck, and he goes, oh yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were calling me. I've lost my phone. That's why I'm not calling you back.
Okay.
Right. So he had, given the police his alibi, and there were several people who could say, oh no, he was with me that night and he lost his phone. So he's cleared as a suspect. Gail's ex-husband, Jeff, was looked at as a suspect. He had a girlfriend in their relationship before the divorce was finalized. So I guess they weren't estranged. They actually had finalized their divorce. And he was also still the beneficiary of Gail's life insurance. But he was cleared. He was with the National Guard, and he was on a training mission, and he was on the base. He couldn't have gotten off the base to make her disappear. And then they get a false confession. They get a tip that an inmate named Marvin Jeffs confessed to murdering her and said that, he was a local plumber and that he had done work at her house, and he had bragged about how he had raped and killed her. And they interview him, and he won't make eye contact with them. He taps his feet. He didn't know Gail. He didn't know how she disappeared. And he, was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, well, we know you know her because you're a local plumber and you've been to her home. But they obtain a warrant to search his house. They don't find anything. And he finally says, look, I made the whole thing up because I'm in prison for drug possession, and I want to boost my street cred.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Awesome. So here is where I think a brilliant thing happens. A representative from the Atlantic Judicial Circuit District Attorney's Office comes up with a plan he hatches with investigators from the GBI, and he says, look, we need to come at Ken Lumpkin in a different way. We need to say, we're trying to help find closure for Gail Moody's family. Tell us what happened. And they had permission from her family, from all the parties involved, and said, we'll offer you immunity from prosecution if you just tell us what happened to Gail and the location of her remains. So 12 years later, after her murder, but 9 years after he's arrested and convicted of Lori Arrowwood's murder, which they just really believe are connected, he says, okay, I'll tell you. I showed up at her house. I tried to rape her and I couldn't perform. I strangled her until she passed out. I drove her to my parents' house. They were out of town. I attempted to rape her again. I couldn't perform. And this time I strangled her until she died. And I threw her out in the woods. Now, they have looked everywhere for her remains. They have zero evidence of her remains being where he says they are, but they do have his confession and some other information that they're obviously not releasing, probably until they find her, that corroborates what his story was, and they don't believe anyone else is involved. So the Long County Sheriff, Craig Nobles, told the Coastal Courier, I'm really glad that he came clean because we need to bring some sort of peace to Gail's family. And when the reporter says, are you going to still search? Are you going to stop searching? And he says, hell no, we will never give up. As long as her remains have not been recovered, this case stays open.
Oh, that's great.
It's incredibly,
yeah, it really is.
Incredibly beautiful. I mean, I think it's unusual and amazing, and I am extremely proud of them because that isn't something that happens often. I am horrified that Ken Lumpkin used his wife's friends as his hunting ground. I'm sure that's happened in the past, but it's a terrible thing. I'm sure Shelley feels really bad that he began plucking her friends for his personal weird desires. And
well, apparently that didn't really work out anyway.
That didn't work out really.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It's pretty awful. I mean, in order to not get the death penalty, he pled guilty to felony murder and kidnapping, so he gets life in prison. So his goal must be to stay alive. Unlike Israel Keyes, he doesn't want a definitive death date. He'll do anything he can to stay alive. And maybe he thought if he confessed to Gail Moody's, years of them questioning him and him saying, I didn't know her. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, you did. And they come up with something. Okay, you get immunity if you just tell us. And he folds like a deck of cards.
Maybe he was waiting for that the whole time.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
I can't believe it took this long. And I know it wasn't that her family would be getting some sort of peace by knowing what happened to her, that she didn't run away, that something happened to her.
Right. I think you're absolutely right. I think he didn't want to risk a death sentence, and he was probably waiting for somebody to offer him immunity like that.
Right.
He was serving life without parole, and he was probably happy to serve that, and he just didn't want to die. And
Gail and Lori are just these really beautiful women. I mean, here Lori is, her husband is, active duty in Iraq, and she's taking care of the home and herself and their daughter. And Gail is like newly independent, and she was this self-reliant woman who wanted to live out in the country by herself, and maybe needed help from a handyman. it's heartbreaking to me when these things happen. And I never know what's worse. Is it worse if it's someone you know? I mean, I guess there's no better or worse. It's all just terrible. But the fact that it would be someone, that you are acquainted with, maybe you don't know them really well, but, you know them well enough to have them in your home, and they betray you in such a way. I never know. I never know about these things, what propels someone to do this. And I mean, I guess that could be debated forever, mental illness. And I don't think Ken Lumpkin is mentally ill. I think he's just an asshole. I think he's just an asshole monster. While we think we know what happened to Gail Moody because of what Ken Lumpkin has said, and they've been able to corroborate with their investigation, if you know any other details about where Gail Moody could be or what Ken Lumpkin did, be kind and call the Long County Sheriff's Office at 912-545-2118. And more cowbell.
If you'd like to support this podcast, go to patreon.com/justthetipsters.